Today we are looking at the Laowa Ranger Super 35mm Lite Cine lenses. This is a set of 3 Cine lenses that are designed for Super 35mm cameras and are much more compact than anything you see from the competition. Now, ProAV were very kind to let me borrow this set of lenses to test and review. If you want to pick any of these up, make sure you click on the affiliate link down below, as they are absolutely awesome. So why did I want to test out these Cine zoom lenses? Well, it's down to their size. For me, their compact size, similar to any sort of still zoom lens, is ideal for the travel work that I do. They easily fit into a camera bag like your still lenses do, and what's nice about them is that they're all a similar size, so you're not going to have that issue of how do you pack these things down, or when you're rigging you're not having to make too many adjustments. The compact size is a real big benefit of these particular lenses. Now, these lenses match really well. Whether you're using the wide angle, the mid-range zoom, or the telephoto, they all looked very similar to each other, which is exactly what you want when it comes to a Cine lens set. The image that they produce is fairly clean. There's nothing too distinctive about them except the flare, which I'll get onto in a bit. But overall, the image is just going to give you a very nice, clean looking image that doesn't bring in any weird artifacts or looks that are particularly distinctive. Now, often we want those looks and those characteristics in a lot of Cine lenses. It's part of the reason why we will pick one up and why we buy one. However, I do find there is a lot of client work where you have to be cautious with that, and that's the one big thing I would say, the big lesson to be learned from using lenses like this over other options is, although those more characteristic lenses can be very fun to use, and us as filmmakers we want them all the time because it just creates so much interest, from a client perspective they might not care for it so much. So definitely think carefully when picking up a cinema lens set. What type of look are you going for? What's going to work best with the type of work that you are producing? And do take into consideration the type of work you're doing and the type of clients you are working with. Now, these lenses aren't super sharp. There's definitely sharper lenses out there than this. Any still lenses are probably going to appear sharper than these, but that's kind of the point. You want a slightly softer roll-off. You don't want that clinical sharpness when using cinema lenses. It actually benefits often as well for us filmmakers because it means if you don't quite nail focus, it isn't going to be as noticeable as a Sigma lens, for example, where you're going to really tell if you're just slightly out. Now, to say that, it's not terrible, it's certainly not soft at all, the image, but just compared to some of the other modern lenses that we see out there, it doesn't have that clinical sharpness. Now, out of the set, I really love the 17-50. For me, if I could only buy one, this is the one I would buy, and actually for a lot of the work I do, I think that would be my most used lens by far. 17 is a really nice wide angle. I want to see more lenses that do 17-50, especially some still lenses that have IS and autofocus and all that, because it's such a useful range when shooting on a Super 35 camera. Yes, there's a few much older lenses out there that have that sort of range, but I like to see something a bit more modern. I know we're moving away from Super 35 generally, but surely there's still a market for lenses like that. Not always perfect with these lenses, and let's get into those points right now. The big thing that I really noticed with them was how easily it flares. Although the image is fairly neutral and looks nice, I do have concerns over the amount of flare that it would pick up even in quite normal ambient locations. You're pointing in a certain direction and maybe there was like a large window to the left or something like that, and you would notice the image would go a little bit milky, it would go a little bit less contrast. The other big issue people might have with these lenses is the fact that they are Super 35. Now, in all honesty, if you want a compact cine zoom lens like this, it's going to have to be Super 35. A full frame lens would just be much bigger, so it's a compromise of the type of lens that you're going for. However, I can totally see how people who are investing, especially a lot of money like this, into a set of lenses want to think beyond just their current camera setup. Yes, they might be shooting on Super 35mm cameras right now, or they can shoot in Super 35 modes, and that's absolutely fine. But long term, I think the way the industry is heading, I think full frame is just going to be the standard. Other little frustrations I have with the lenses, I found the aperture ring to be very short and quite easy to accidentally adjust. It just felt very light and easy to move, and just trying to get that precision when it came to exposure could be a bit of a problem. I would like to see a bit of a longer throw on the aperture. By contrast, the focus ring is extremely long and probably goes the other way when it comes to one-man band operation. If you're trying to use this by pulling on the barrel, it's a very long focal length and it's very difficult to go from one end to the other. Not a problem when you're trying to be very precise, it's actually very useful to have that long throw. However, I found when I was doing a lot of lifestyle shooting, it was a bit more of a hindrance rather than a help. The PL mount also can just be a bit of a pain to use if you're working on your own or in a small team. It really does require 2 people to operate. As cool as PL mount is, and it is just such a standard that you can use across all different camera systems, I would caution people about getting too excited about it if they're not shooting with a bigger crew. You need to line things up when it comes to a PL mount. So generally you want to either put it down on a camera cart or on a tripod to actually change the lens, which can slow you down in certain shoot situations. If you're doing documentaries, for example, which although this lens would be ideal for, it could be frustrating that PL mount if you need to change it too often. When it comes to the competition, well, of course there are plenty of cine lenses out there from the likes of DZO, Fujion, plenty of different options that you could pick from, but none of them are as compact and as small as these lenses. And that's what makes these ones so particularly unique. If you really need a compact set of cine lenses, these are the way to go. I don't think there's really another option out there. So are these lenses a good investment? Well, I think for a lot of people out there who really want to move into cinema lenses and want something compact, but they still want to stick to zoom because they need the convenience that zoom can bring, then these are a great option to go with. They're certainly not cheap, but you do get quality lenses that you'd be very happy with. The biggest concern is probably the fact that they're Super 35. Long term, you may feel that you need to move on from that just because your camera systems has changed, and that might be the only reason you regret picking these up. Otherwise, they are a great option to go with if you're looking for a compact cine zoom.